I kind of want to listen to the theory-wise interviews where he interviewed all the WoW players.
RuneScape. It quickly became one of my most watched, as it even got an Asmongold reaction. See? Right there. Between why young men don't like Democrats and migrant mob attacks courthouse, ICE deports entire building. So, that's nice. In this space, Asmongold reactions are pretty rare. I'm not even a guy in front of a green screen. Take that, Idol, Jimmy, others. And he even said this.
I really think this is a great video. I was glad that I watched this, and I think that I pretty much agree with everything he's saying.
Okay.
Clearly, this video is gonna age perfectly. Anyway, let's check in on some of our favorite RuneScape streamers.
I'm playing both, my friend.
Guys, 07's in the chat for Savix, man. The music's making me all sad, bro. What the hell? I miss this guy.
All y'all bitch asses.
Oh, Showback.
Gilnor shit.
07's for Showback.
New world style. New world. The return to hardcore WoW.
Oh, Guzu.
I lost interest. I was addicted to the game, and I feel like I completely lost my touch with the game. I have no interest in doing dailies in a bullshit game.
Oh no, Ampy 07's.
Bullshit game.
New World style. God, that Showback clip,
Oh.
it aged terribly. It aged terribly. God dang it, Showback. Oh, he was just so confident. I'm leaving OSRS for New World. Oh, God. They canceled New World like the next day.
Oh, okay, let's talk about that. I promise I'm not joking when I say that I think that video has remained relevant. It outlined elements of OSRS that are appealing to fans of the MMO and explained why so many WoW players, particularly those who played a lot of Classic, have found themselves enjoying RuneScape. In no small part because of a massive content drought in WoW. While I think that WoW is still within a content drought, Blizzard has announced a re-release of its first expansion.
But wait till that re. That shit gonna be lit. You remember the last time that we played TBC when it came out again? Oh, that shit gonna be fun again. We gonna be lit.
The Burning Crusade, which naturally is garnering some attention, especially due to Soda Poppin's ability to create another OnlyFans event, wherein all these streamers can once again collaborate and have a great time. Ever since that video of mine, many a WoW
Guys, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result?
player has came and went, etching their mark on the world and the content creation scene that defines it. Some more than others, but ultimately the flock has become but a few remaining creators that continue on, and even that feels short-lived. Why? The answer is simple. These creators played a lot of old school RuneScape. In fact, most of them played more OSRS than they did Classic Anniversary during OnlyFans a year ago. While their adventures were short-lived from the perspective of an old-school RuneScape player, these aren't your normal old-school RuneScape players. Their career is streaming video games. They likely played more RuneScape in half a year than most of you have in the past year. Just look at their stats. It's no wonder that many of them—
Actually, I get a lot of people that tell me all the time that I've played more in 6 months than they have in 2 years. It's like a very common thing. They're like, man, I've been playing for 4 years and you're already past me. But we're playing the game 10 to 12 hours a day. Like, so yeah, we consume video games. So my 6 months is a lot of people's 4 years. So you got to keep that in mind. Like I've actually played this game a lot longer than 6 months in an average amount of person played time.
Them have burned out, having grinded so hard.
Budbrooks!
Also, there's more
Dropping
WoW
the
content
bomb on
coming
the
out.
stream. Yo, Budbrooks, thank you very much for the 5 gifted. Enjoy that Twitch badge, my boy. I appreciate those 5 gifted. Thank you.
Something that wasn't happening back when they started. There's no reason to look at this in a black and white way. You aren't just an OSRS player or a WoW player. In fact, if I had to guess, most streamers want to just be players, MMO and otherwise. I doubt that they won't dabble in OSRS in the future.
Damn, this is recent footage, bro. This is Slayer Day 1, I think. This is recent footage.
Especially when, if, Blizzard messes something up again. finally, some may not have stopped playing at all. As Savix put it, bouncing between two separate games confuses viewership and negatively impacts a streamer's career. But that's the broad answer, and we will talk about this broadly. But there are all—
Yeah, okay. Listen, guys. As a streamer, I'm gonna tell you guys something. The best feeling as a streamer is when you feel like you could play any game you want and people would still watch and hang out with you. That is such a rare thing. Most streamers end up being tied down to one thing. They don't have the freedom to do like what Guzu does, where Guzu can kind of like play every game and still make enough money to pay his bills. That is like not even the top 1%. That is the top 0.1% of streamers. It is the top 10% of 1% that are able to survive and make enough money to like do whatever they want. It is very, very difficult to achieve that status. Not even Zaryu was able to come and play RuneScape and like be happy with and content with the amount of like money and stuff that he was going to be able to make playing RuneScape. His viewers just wanted to watch him play WoW. He doesn't do well with variety. And it's like, it's tough, man. Not a lot of people are able to do this. And so if you are, you're super lucky. You are super lucky.
Also specific answers, specific to creators, their motivations, and their goals, as well as some important takeaways for prospect players, content creators, and even game developers. So let's get into it. As I see it, burnout is one of the two main culprits that causes departure. I'm sure most of us know what burnout is, but in my perspective, burnout is achieved through certain environments. What causes—
Thank you for the 5 gifted subs, guys. That's another back-to-back bomb on the stream. Thank you for the 5 gifted, Mr. Villain. And enjoy that Rune Simi, or Dragon Simi. Rune Simi would have been a downgrade. Dragon Simi badge forever on Twitch, my man.
Causes an individual to burn out is a feeling of stagnancy, a lack of movement. So if your journey through a game is like a long, winding road trip, burnout would be gridlock.
Sardaco hair win. Right after this 10-minute timeout. How about that, Sir Gavin? Yeah, enjoy that.
Endless traffic. When you feel like you aren't making progress, then you end up perceiving time spent in the game as wasted. OSRS mitigates this by having loads of different goals to incrementally work toward, but also brings this upon itself by having certain pitfalls in its progression. Incredibly rare drops that gate a huge swath of content, such as the Bofa and its respective crystal armor obtained through the Corrupted Gauntlet, is actually a great example of this. While the content is great, it also acts like a bottleneck for Ironman. Until you complete it, you feel restricted from breaking through.
Did you guys notice that every single WoW player quit when they got to the Gauntlet? Every single one? You guys think that's a coincidence? Or a game design issue? A little bit of both? I don't know. If I'm Jagek, I'm looking at that, scratching my head and saying, is there anything we could do differently? Is there anything we could do better? What is the reason that a lot of Iron Men quit right here? Are some of the grinds too brutal for Iron Men? Do we want people to quit there? Is that the goal? Is the goal for people to quit? How do we make people keep playing the game? Is there anything we can change? I'm asking myself these type of questions. You know what I mean? That's what you got to do.
Through into the end game, even if that's not always the case. No surprise then that quite a few of these WoW streamers quit around this time. Shobek, for example, got his enhanced crystal seed relatively early, but at that point clearly felt the weight of burnout pushing him away. The same kind of issue exists.
To be fair though, Shobek was playing 12 hours a day every day and he doesn't ever take a day off. How do streamers stream every single day? I would lose my mind. I have to take a day off. I take 2 days off a week. I love playing video games, and sometimes I play on my day off. Sometimes I stream on my day off because I'm like, fudge, I'm not doing anything else today. Might as well just hit go live because I'm going to play video games anyway because I'm having fun. But at a certain point, like, dude, you need a day off. And you know who else doesn't take days off? Peekaboo. That guy's insane. He's been doing it for like 10 years straight. I'd already lose my mind. I would lose my mind.
With specific skill grinds in OSRS, skills that feel singular in their purpose and have very limited output. like agility in the later levels.
Where's my
It's
sim?
not
Refresh.
rewarding to train because it provides so little. The same applies to smithing, mining after a certain point, firemaking, runecraft, hunter, thieving. Wow, there are a lot of skills in this game that need some work, but that's a subject for another video. To lay out the issue, these are people who play games.
Oh, 5 gifted subs from Toby. Yo, thank you, Toby, for the 5 gifted, guys. Holy, another one. 5 bombs flooding in. We do have the discount on the gifted subs for 5+. I thought it was going to be gifted subs for everyone. It's actually only discounted for 5 or more. I used one of my Twitch promotions on that so we could get people some discounts. So thank you guys for throwing on the 5 gifted subs. You guys are legends. I appreciate that, boys.
As a career, their jobs rely on them being entertaining, and that is difficult to do when experiencing a level of burnout. Burnout stems from long hours, a lack of diverse content, i.e. being stuck in the corrupted gauntlet, and slow progression, gridlock. The impression of immobility can also happen thanks to setting far-reaching goals that you don't make meaningful progression toward every day.
Yep.
So if you just started the game and decide, I want to get the Inferno Cape, every day won't feel meaningful in your journey to achieve that. Old school RuneScape does rely
Yeah, that is true. Okay, I was about to say maybe not true, but that is a good take because some days I had regression and some days I backtracked on my prog. It was like 2 days during the Inferno grind where I didn't make it back to my previous wave. So there was 2 days where I backtracked, and those days, yeah, like you're gonna have those days. And even Foe and like Bodhi and all these guys are like, yeah, regression is like a normal thing. So don't be too hard on yourself.
on setting goals. That's the only way to get invested in the game, but they need to be curated goals, balanced around your current place. If you're new, think Dragon Slayer, Dragon Defender, Dragon Scimitar. If you're in the mid-game,
Dragon
think
Simi,
Bofa,
baby!
Quest Cape, Osmumten's Fang. If you're in the endgame, that's when Inferno, Colosseum, and the Theater of Blood become possible. This all comes to a head when there's also some misunderstandings of the game's purpose. I'm not trying to imply that these WoW streamers were playing the game wrong. That's the beauty of OSRS, you can play however you want, just that expectations may have birthed gridlock. I've said this before, but World of Warcraft is very much combat-centric. Combat is 70%
all
of
combat.
the game. It'd be
90.
90% if we're counting the time spent
More.
traveling between the next combat encounter.
90%.
95% if we're counting waiting for groups to fill for combat. It's singular in its purpose, and that also applies to Classic WoW, even when it had a broader, slower-paced goal in mind. Not a
combat.
problem, but also not anything like OSRS, which is maybe like 30% combat-centric, certainly when playing an Ironman. If that is your preferred game mode, you simply can't only be doing combat. I say this often, but RuneScape isn't just a point-and-click adventure game, and it isn't just a rhythm game. It's also a management game.
Yeah.
You are managing your supplies, your inventory, your loadout. These are micro puzzles being solved every single time you do just about anything in the game. It's what creates so much engagement in the most minor action because maximizing efficiency.
Your inventory is part of your combat, and that is something that I think WoW can kind of take if they wanted to and make swapping your gear and things like that, the gear that you bring to the fight and the gear swaps and stuff like that matter a little bit more. And the only person that really matters to a lot in Classic WoW right now is warriors, especially warrior tanks. They will swap their gear a lot. They will also swap their spec if dual spec is available, which it is now. And I would swap between Fury or Deep Prot or Fury Prot and regular Fury, just depending if I was main tanking or off tanking or not tanking at all, and I would just do DPS, and then I would swap my gear. This is why I like Warrior. This concept needs to apply to everybody in the game, and it would make the game more interesting for every class. Making your bag part of the fight is such a great idea.
Is part of successful management. Every time I see people balk at efficient players, how can you have fun doing that? Well, for the same reason you have fun playing Factorio, RimWorld, and Stardew Valley. Aggregating resources
Stardew Valley shout out
is satisfying. And then having content to use those resources on for impactful account progression is the best feeling in the game. But that only happens if you enjoy that part of the game. For example, if you only join RuneScape to do the PVM because that's the most immediately fun element.
This is kind of me. I think he's kind of talking to me here. That's what I want to do. I just want to do all of the difficult PVM stuff to see if I have what it takes or not to get a Zuckhelm. Everything else, I don't really care about. I actually view it more as a chore than I do a game. And that's why I feel like I made a mistake on the selection screen picking Ironman, but also it's a lot more interesting to watch an Ironman. So now at my point in my journey, I've realized that I have a sunk cost fallacy. I can't go back now. We just got to send it, and I got to do all this other stuff now. I just got to man up and do it. And so now I'm just fucking, I'm like, fuck it, I'm an Iron Man. We're already this far in. But I think he's kind of speaking to me right here.
And the most viewer friendly, well, shit, that's going to make your overall journey feel really bad. You're doing things you hate.
However, if you do get, to an Infernal Cape, you do get the Bofa, you do get these grinds on an Iron Man, it feels infinitely more rewarding because you sacrificed way more to get it. So more work, but more reward. That's Iron Man.
For the off chance that you'll eventually get to the parts you don't. And that's broadly what I think happened for a lot of WoW streamers. The OSRS PVM is clearly very engaging. If you've never played, you may look at the screen and scoff at the colored squares and simplistic graphics, but OSRS has more mechanical depth for the individual player than just about any MMO. I say this as someone who rated cutting-edge content in WoW for many years. The mechanics in OSRS are not only harder, more punishing, and require more attention, but the game itself has more depth to its moment-to-moment gameplay.
True.
That's not to say mythic raiding in WoW is easy, just that it taps into a different skill set. It's group-centric, meaning that simplistic mechanics are made far harder when 20 people need to be doing them flawlessly and in tandem. But individual mechanics in WoW rarely exceed that. Moving left, moving right, standing there, hitting that, interrupting X, pushing P. The difficulty is in coordination. In OSRS, the difficulty stems from anything but. So if you don't like the management aspects of RuneScape, then you likely won't connect to the game. And if you only want to do the PVM, don't make an Iron Man, right?
Damn!
That's the other broad criticism levied at these streamers. They shouldn't have made Iron Man.
True!
And I wholeheartedly disagree. There are only two kinds of people streaming non-Iron Man in the OSRS space. Very talented PVMers like No Monkey, Mulgoat Kirby, and so on, and very talented PvPers such as Odablock, Dino, and West Ham. Otherwise, even if you're a new player, Mainscape is just kind of fucking boring to watch, especially when you have viewers capable of giving you anything you need. While you can say just don't accept handouts, not only is that easier said than done, it also doesn't dispel the myth that it happens regardless. Similarly, the journey of Iron Man, the need to do the wide breadth of content in the game, both good and bad, is what makes for compelling streams. Recently, Sardaco went for the Inferno Cape, one of the hardest items in the entire game to obtain, and after 70 odd attempts, he got it. I don't think this would have hit as hard if he was rocking full Biss, range, and mage with a 3-bill setup. The setbacks, the failures, mechanical and material, is what made the effort engaging to watch. That's what connected the viewers to the stream. They're not always fun, but it makes for the better story, the more exciting overall
better story.
Experience.
That's 100% true. Iron Man's a better story.
Is the de facto story.
Guys, that is a bar right there. Iron Man is a better story. Only real ones will get it. Only real ones will understand what that means.
Of old school RuneScape. It's not just for those who love grinding, and that hasn't been the case for like 8 years. It's there to give incentives to explore every part of this game and gain value from those parts. It's meant to be a natural form of progression. If I were to say anything in hindsight, it's that I wish there was more consideration for some group Ironman between players who stuck around for longer, as that can alleviate the mid-game resource grind.
That's why group Ironman is the best mode in the game.
As my first time with OSRS was as a group Ironman, and look at me now. Now that we've covered the broad reasons, let's dip into specifics. To perform a good analysis, I wanted to reach out to some of these streamers and get their perspectives. I couldn't communicate with all of them, but those I did helped me a ton, so thank you. I sat down virtually with Jokered last week for an episode of my Fireside podcast. If you're wondering what that is, it's a show where I bring on all kinds of wonderful content creators to yap about games, content creation, and more. You can find it on my second channel with the full Jokered episode uploaded. I've had Alien Food, Josh Isn't Gaming, the CEO of MMOs, and even a Jagex developer, Mod Grub, on to chat, with lots more coming in the future. As a thank you to my channel members, they also gain early access to future episodes of Fireside on my main channel. So if that interests you and you want to support these projects, feel free to become a member on this channel. Anyway, Jokered was the world first max level in Classic WoW during its release in 2019. I remember watching his gameplay at the time and genuinely being in awe at how much of a grinder he is. So it shouldn't go as any surprise that he is one of those streamers that got incredibly invested in RuneScape. It kind of hits the elements of an MMO that speak to him. When I asked him about the departed streamers, those who left, he had this to say.
One of the worst things that I can think of as a streamer is you go live and you don't know what you're doing. You don't have a plan. You don't have a task to do. You're just like kind of like grasping at content, right? Which is something that I have many issues with WoW, because I've played WoW for so long. I've made so many characters. It's just like at some point
spitting right
you're
here.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel. There's just not that much left.
There's
right?
just nothing left.
And I feel like with RuneScape, it's just like a bigger barrel of like almost like a never-ending ocean in it, right? So like I really like that about the game, where there's just so many ridiculously long grinds, and I feel like I could just never run out of things to do. So that's kind of what keeps me playing, as well as just trying to like, you know, do stuff, get things done, like level up the skills. Like I've been working on the achievement cape since I finished my quest cape, right, which is a while back now, and I still haven't even probably done half of it. So it's just one of those things where that's kind of what keeps me going and playing the game. Maybe for the other content creators, it was more about like doing the quests, maybe just checking out a bit of the mid game, right? They started playing before me as well, to be fair, right? So maybe they had their fill. I'm not sure. Like I can't really put myself in their shoes that well, you know?
A core reason why Jokered not only stuck around, but went on to achieve some genuinely awe-inspiring things, such as maxing sailing in under a week, as someone who has only been playing for like 4 months, is because he connected with the management side of RuneScape. His first 99 was farming, doing herb runs and stacking up resources for PVM grinds was satisfying.
Yeah, the thing that made Zaryu quit is the thing Jokered max first.
Content to him. He didn't hate that side of the game. He actively encouraged it, recognized that without it, the game would fail in its goal of being a long-term MMO. After all, he's no stranger to grinds. He did over 2,000 solos of a dungeon in Classic when farming a dagger. While for most Classic WoW players, the longest grind in the game is the Journey to Max, for OSRS players, that would be nothing, breakfast. That's not to say that WoW Classic didn't have insane grinds such as rank 14, but that they weren't mandatory or done by most players. And in the case of rank 14, no longer exist in the way they used to.
And then I saw like a lot of other WoW content creators were playing it for like a month or so, right? And I was like, I just tried the game out for a few days right before Mists of Pandaria launched, and I ended up liking it. It was fun. I ended up stopping playing MOP. Played for a couple days only, and then I went back to RuneScape. Definitely the early game wasn't like the best compared to how it is now, but it's just like you gradually unlock.
The early game is like mega confusing, no quality of life. The mid game, it's so much better because you have fast travel, and then now my favorite part of the game is where I'm starting to get to, which is the difficult challenges. The difficult solo challenges in particular, best part of RuneScape. And what makes me sad is so many people that play RuneScape will never get to the best part of the game. I would say at least half of all RuneScape players will never get to play the best part. And that makes me a bit sad. But this is not a game for everyone. And what makes old school RuneScape so special is they don't bend the knee to casuals. This is a game for grinders. You grind or you get the fuck out.
And it just makes the game feel better over time, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like the game design of it, right? Like where you unlock like traveling with fairy rings, and you can use law runes to teleport around. So it's just kept getting better and better. And I'm still playing. I've like, what is it, 80 days now on my own on my account.
Love that.
Ridiculous.
Meanwhile, other WoW turned OSRS streamers took an entirely different approach to the game. Guzu is likely the most well-known convert, as his guideless quest cape journey created some truly memorable moments. It captured the same feelings that early episodes of Alien Food's Unguided series did, wherein a player discovers the wonders of the world unbegotten to metas and viewer demands. While Guzu didn't connect with the management side of RuneScape as much, he did resonate with an aspect that most streamers didn't: the quests. Arguably one of the most, if not the most distinguishing feature of this MMO that most people overlook. Quests in RuneScape are single-player adventures filled with challenges, puzzles, and quite a lot of dialogue. While you can use the Quest Helper plugin to simplify them, just the sheer fact that a RuneScape quest can kill your character in a boss fight distinctly separates them from other MMOs. You may be facing an existential, strangely barefooted threat in World of Warcraft, but it clearly isn't doing much to damage you, to hurt your character, so why should you care or believe in that threat? On the other hand, in OSRS, you are not only dying to certain quest bosses, but sometimes are doing so repeatedly. It's unique that quests aren't there to be repeatable chores to slop through on your way to max level, but are a separate side of the game. They benefit your character's progression by granting great rewards and act as goals to achieve in and of themselves. Out of all of these players, Guzu's journey felt the most insular and compact. Most viewers likely understood that after the quest cape, he would explore different avenues or return back to WoW. But along those same lines, I think most players know that when OSRS receives a new quest, or a set of new quests, he may be the first back in line to experience them.
Guzu might come back.
Sodapoppin's initial interest in OSRS
God,
is likely what popularized the meta after
Temporaz,
Guzu
boy.
jump-started it. While I don't have much to say about Sodapoppin, as he didn't play the game enough to understand it or take something away from it, he
My Temporaz locked Ironman. A diary by Sodapoppin.
is an influencer that now is responsible for some of the most memorable events in both games, WoW and RuneScape. In WoW, he played a role in orchestrating OnlyFans, which contributed a lot of publicity to Classic WoW's anniversary release, and in
Dude, what's crazy is some of the WoW players came over and they started making a settled video. They literally locked themselves to Temporaz and Wintertot, like Graze for days. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, play the game first. Idiots.
In OSRS, he played a role in putting together the OTK event, pitting streamer against streamer in one of the most bizarre and funny crossovers in recent memory. His influence was felt, even if not in-game. Zaryu is an interesting case. He didn't play as much OSRS as some of his peers had, but his takeaways were fascinating. His adventure into RuneScape felt like a fact-finding mission. I never got the impression that he would quit WoW, but rather explore an alternate world and then apply that world's success to WoW.
Right.
Out of all these streamers, Zaryu spent a lot of time post-OSRS thinking about the elements of the game that would apply well to Classic Plus, the version of Classic WoW that fans are eagerly waiting for, a version that would turn Blizzard's penchant for re-releasing old content on its head by having them create actually new content for Classic WoW, and potentially set it on a separate path to the main game, much like OSRS did to RuneScape 3 all those years ago. As a WoW player, I'm excited to see what Classic Plus looks like. As a RuneScape player, I'm incredibly skeptical. I made an entire video about why, one that not only became my most controversial, but was also reacted to by Zaryu and gave me the opportunity to reach out and ask about the topic of this video. This is what he said. In my eyes, it came down to two things mainly. The first reason is that most WoW creators/streamers are streamers, meaning they need to do what's best for them, but also for their communities. And when they were originally playing OSRS, they had an influx of 2 times or 3 times normal viewership. So as a streamer, it's a no-brainer to play more of that game. But once that falls off, it becomes harder to justify even if you're enjoying the game. The harder question to answer is, why did the viewership fall off? Novelty wearing off or mid-game too grindy? I believe the masses get bored of the repetitive nature of the mid-game, even if it is good game design. My suggestion? Mains can easily be cheated by being given some of the best loot in the game, making them not as good to stream because it undermines the entire journey of obtaining items when everything is given to you. And Ironman have an insane grind that is tough to stream to a super large audience because of how grindy it can get. Although I believe Irons to be more fun to watch than mains, for the most part, the journey, I think a Bronze Man of sorts, minus the PvP
Bronze
portion,
Man
i.e.
hype!
no lootable items in PvP, would solve this. This would cut farming down by a ton and also allow for an authentic journey without handouts. This type of game...
In short, guys, me and Zar talked about this a lot, and we were on the same page about this, but Bronze Man would solve a lot of issues for streamers, which is we don't want to, we want to stream a lot of like the cool, interesting stuff and the best parts of RuneScape, but streaming the grinds, you can only be a just chatting streamer for so long. And if you want to be an entertaining streamer a lot, it's a lot of grind. It's a lot of grind to try and, you know, be an entertaining, just chatting streamer for. And to be able to skip some of those grinds, like 30% or 40% of the grind, but still have the glory of the Ironman, a Bronze Man would be the happy medium in between, and it would be the best streaming mode. And that's why a lot of streamers want this mode, at least from like talking to me and Zar about it. So that's kind of what Zar's saying here summarized.
Mode, I believe, would have appealed the most to nearly every WoW streamer, but it didn't exist officially. After returning to WoW, Zaryu created a spreadsheet of all kinds of different ideas that could be added to Classic Plus, and then polled his viewers on each one using the very same polling breakpoints that Jagex does for OSRS.
Yeah.
70.
I personally wouldn't mind hardcore normal accounts either. I'm not really sure why those don't exist, but for whatever reason, Jagex thought they wouldn't be a good idea. So you got to trust Jagex. They know more about game development than I do.
% to pass. I also spent a couple hours discussing this very spreadsheet with resident OSRS chunkman Josh Isn't Gaming on an upcoming episode of Fireside, my podcast. So look out for that on my second channel within the next week or two. Anyway, Zaryu's takeaways are very important to understand because they will help us tie things together in this video's conclusion. I think it's fair to say that Sardaco went hard. He, alongside Jokered, spent more time than anyone else in RuneScape, and has the achievements to prove it. He got the first Bofa and the first Inferno Cape. RuneScape's PVM clearly resonated with him. I also spent some time speaking
the only thing I want to do
about OSRS, Classic Plus, and the topic of this very video. He had a similar takeaway to Zaryu. An official Bronze Man mode with restricted PvP would have kept more WoW streamers playing. I'd be hard-pressed to disagree, since adding new game modes doesn't damage OSRS at all. You really don't need new servers or to split the player base to include them. While I know there were other streamers checking the game out, I think my broad conclusions about burnout apply to them well enough that I don't need to spend more time analyzing specific cases. But shout out to them nevertheless, you can see some of them on screen here. The final content creator I want to mention isn't a streamer at all. Mad Season Show is the most well-known classic WoW YouTuber. He has been making WoW content for over a decade and has made a brand out of his monotone voice, compelling analysis, and predictions over impending monetization. Told you so. Over a year ago, he checked out old school RuneScape and enjoyed it so much that he wanted to create an unguided series. It quickly became one of my favorite pieces of OSRS content ever. It tapped into that alien food unguided appeal while coming from a voice that has never touched the game before. Watching him stumble through without even the pre-existing context of how the game works is incredible. Seeing him discover how to splash on seagulls in Port Sarim totally through deduction, or spending dozens of hours grinding Wintertod for a dragon hatchet. Seeing him wrangle the game's occasionally obtuse systems is not only some of the best content, it's crucial for game design too. That's the benefit of having so many new players check out OSRS, and why it has seen so much growth over the past few years. While the jagged edges of the game are nostalgic and very important to keep in some ways, they aren't all winners. Over time, Jagex and plugin developers alike have alleviated many of the overbearing points of friction and created a much more palatable onboarding experience.
Friction mentioned?
In no small part thanks to content creators like Mad Season, who point out flaws that have been ignored thanks to a player base that hasn't made new accounts in many years. Since he started playing, the game added login tips, skill summaries, and slightly more guidance that made old-school RuneScape more approachable without sacrificing its identity as an old-school MMO. Many of these streamers have left, but not without making an indelible mark on the game we all love. RuneScape only benefited from their presence. They showcased the flaws and successes of the early game, allowing Jagex to continue improving aspects.
Wait, I think the viewership, hold on, I'm reading a comment, but I'm also killing something. I think the viewership went down a lot because a lot of streamers were lazy, not doing anything fun or new. We needed more stuff like TOA Fridays. That was bomb when everyone was still there. I'm glad to hear you guys like the TOA Fridays. I tried my hardest to get the streamers together and rally every Friday to do stuff together. And then we ended up doing Cox and stuff like that. And I feel like the viewership was good. I feel like you guys come out and watch those things, which is amazing. We should do more collabs and stuff like that. Here is why we don't do more stuff like that. There is so much grinding that you need to do on an Ironman that it's like, feels like a waste of time sometimes to stop what you're doing and actually go have fun. Because there's so much grinding. And it's a shame that it feels like that. But for Ironman, it's like you need to get to a certain point before you can go and grind and do things. And a lot of people are kind of stuck in their own element. Like they have their goals and things they want to accomplish. And then there's some of us are EU and some of us are United States. And it's tough to like sometimes meet in the middle and run those things together. And ultimately, RuneScape is a game where you want to like have good gear so that you can farm stuff quickly. And you just really don't get to that point very fast on an Ironman. So even though you're getting like, 1 or 2 KC here and there, a lot of times it's better to like not do that and wait till like a few months later and then come back and farm that content quicker later on. So there's a reason why like Slayer is the meta, because Slayer gives you some really good items without a ton of effort once you get the Slayer level, right? And so, we'll farm these raids a lot faster once everyone has a BOFA, right? But it takes a long time to get a BOFA and a full crystal set. Right now, only me and Joker have that, and everyone else is in CG farming. And for a while, we had to wait for everybody to like green log perilous moons. And that took a while. And so it's a lot of waiting on your friends to like catch up to you if they started later or they didn't play. And so it's just a lot of grinding. There's nothing that can compare the amount of grinding and prep that you have to do in RuneScape to any other game that I've ever played. And so it can just get to a point and it's like, yeah, we'll do like 1 or 2 TOAs, a week, but even a week of grinding doesn't really put your account in a much better position than it was a week ago. You need months to progress in this game. And so that's why it's tough it feels tough. Like I want everyone once everyone gets a BOFA, then I feel like we could do more content, but even then, they're going to need another 6 months before we can start efficiently clearing TOBs. Because I'm trying to put my account in TOB status right now, but I'm still far away from it. I need 87 Slayer, then I've got to grind stuff, and then we can maybe get into some TOBs, but it would be better if I waited until after the Yama grind, which I first need to get a Synapse so I can get a Scobo so I can get into Doom and start grinding Yama, and then maybe I'll have a decent enough gear to where we can farm TOBs. And then by the time I get that, maybe Joker will be ready, but like nobody else will be there for like 6 months. TOB status, unless we're carrying them. So it is tough to do stuff like that. Now we don't have to do raids. We could do other content, but that's something I got to think about. I don't really know the game well enough yet to start planning around and doing other content. And I think that is something that I need to start thinking about and doing. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
That aren't criticized enough. They personally experienced an entirely different subgenre of MMO, and most importantly, they created amazing content for all of us to watch. The one thing that didn't benefit yet is World of Warcraft. In fact, this is where things become complicated. Many streamers and viewers that play both games or just WoW have settled on a single takeaway. Make Classic Plus like old school RuneScape.
Yeah.
They love WoW, they want Classic Plus to be successful, and OSRS looks like the kind of paradigm to apply. My controversial video on this subject essentially took the counter to that, arguing that WoW does not have the systems, backend, and community necessary to translate old school RuneScape success, and in addition to that, doesn't have a company running it with a vision for the game's future. You can't just—
Guys, anybody saying D-Iron? D-Iron is not an option. If you guys aren't listening, maybe you guys weren't here for the beginning of the video. People don't really care about mains. As a streamer, de-ironing is not an option. So we either get a bronze man mode or we stay iron. Those are the two options. And as a streamer, I think most streamers would agree with that. That's just the way it is.
Just cherry pick parts of OSRS you like without acknowledging how crucial the parts you don't are. The management side of OSRS, the herb runs, the farming, the fletching, the crafting, that is what breeds longevity. That's what makes RuneScape a long-term MMO, and why even classic WoW struggled to retain persistent activity outside of its patches. For example, many WoW players look to OSRS and say, I wish WoW could make the kinds of solo challenges RuneScape has, without understanding that it can't. Not really. RuneScape isn't driven by the holy trinity of tank, DPS, and healers. It doesn't have classes or respective specializations.
I love that about RuneScape, by the way.
Meaning that every player has access to the same utilities and offensive
perfectly balanced game
as any other.
Perfectly
balanced.
There are no
limits to what
everyone's
you
the
can
same.
and can't be based on choices you made during character creation. The roles and specializations associated with the Holy Trinity are crucial for WoW's identity. They aren't conducive to solo challenges. The only method through which this would be possible would be if Blizzard dedicated an inordinate amount of time creating challenges for specific specializations, like 30 of them. It's untenable from a content creation standpoint. And we know this because they've kind of tried it before. In the Legion expansion, there was a patch that added an activity called the Mage Tower, which was a solo challenge that awarded a unique cosmetic for your specialization. It was actually a collection of 7 challenges, with each individual one encompassing a certain grouping of specializations that had the utilities required to deal with those specific encounters mechanics. It was really good, actually. I loved getting the appearances back in 2017. But that was in a version of the game where classes are already homogenized. Most already had interrupt, self-heals, and other forms of CC. That is—
a lot of people prefer the restriction being placed by the game and not by a self-imposed one. Yeah, that's why I said if Bronze Man was an official mode, then it would be like, it would be perfect, especially for streamers. Because they could get past some of the grinds a little bit quicker. But still have the validation from the game officially that they earned everything that they have. But they maybe just didn't do as many farm runs as an Iron did, right? So that's kind of where we're at. You either play Iron, where I'm at least, I'm going to just speak for myself. Where I'm at, I'm either an Iron Man, a Bronze Man, or nothing is where I'm at right now. That's what I've decided.
Not the case in Classic.
And it has to be official.
Specializations are very different from one another. Some tanks, like the Protection Paladin, don't even have a taunt button. Utilities are separated, with only some classes and specializations able to do things like solo dungeons. You wouldn't be able to create 7 encounters, you'd need to create over 20. The only other solution is to apply the same level
Would
of
you try
homogenization
UIM?
that would
No.
kind of ruin
And I'm
the
gonna time you
spirit
out for
of
asking
Classic
that.
WoW's classes. So while it is easy to say just do what RuneScape does, they can't. It doesn't map on. And when one quits RuneScape because of the, say, overbearing management grind, only to turn around and say, man, I hope Classic Plus copies RuneScape. No, you don't. And it can't. WoW players aren't going to like that. You won't like that. The game doesn't have the infrastructure necessary for long-term horizontal progression. The only way OSRS achieved this is by not being as combat-focused.
Yeah.
Much like my takeaway in that one controversial video, it's a ship of Theseus.
Damn. He's cooking, man. He's really cooking with this. You can't really have a horizontal progression game mode that's purely combat. What strings out the horizontalness of this game is that it's like 90% skilling. That's what makes it take so much time. If it was all combat, I mean, I don't know if they could have enough design in the game in WoW to like string it out and make it take as long as what RuneScape does. I just don't think that, I don't think the game design works like that. And there's so many different classes and specs. Imagine you have 24 different classes. You got to keep all of them balanced and make gear for every single one of those classes and specs over the next 20 years. So you automatically need 24 times the amount of gear that you would have to design for like an old school RuneScape. And you have to keep it all balanced. And now you're struggling with balance. And not only for PvM, but also for PvP. And it's like, dude, it is a structural nightmare to try and do this in a classic game design. It's too much. My brain starts to explode when I think about it.
To create a sustainable future for Classic Plus, you'd need to perpetually strip it of elements that define World of Warcraft. And while I would personally like Blizzard to swing for the fences and truly try something different, I fear that a lot of WoW players may not want that at all. It's part of the reason why many of these streamers played more OSRS than they did Classic Anniversary, even though many of the former systems didn't appeal much to them. This is RuneScape's identity. It's not that WoW or Blizzard shouldn't take it, it's that they probably can't. I asked Zaryu what he hopes Classic Plus takes from old school RuneScape. He said this: "My final takeaway is that every game is different, and you can't one-for-one copy everything for other games like WoW because it simply doesn't work. Skilling doesn't exist in WoW, and it doesn't need to necessarily. Things like WoW having classes, larger raids, etc., these are staples of WoW and make it so that you can't just copy-paste all things from RuneScape. So the idea is to honor that the games are different, but still gain inspiration from some things that work, mainly systems.
Collection
the biggest
logs
by far in my eyes are 1, the voting
achievements,
system, 2, honoring the tradition of the game, and 3, when adding new content, it shouldn't completely invalidate all of the old content." It's easy to see where he's coming from, and I generally agree. Our views do differ slightly though, such as my perspective that I don't think polling would work in Classic because the player base doesn't have a general broad vision for the game and haven't yet been put in the position to need to—
Damn, Theory-Wise just said Classic players don't know what's going on. They don't know what's best for the game. You think you do, but you don't.
consider its longevity in the future, which could lead them to vote in things that seem appealing in the present but detract from its future sustainability. The success of polling in OSRS first stemmed from the community's fear of change. This allowed the developers to prove themselves, create a vision for the future, and only then pitch ideas that are larger, greater, evolutionary. If this collective detour into old-school RuneScape improves another world that I love dearly, then that's nothing but a win in my book. I don't think World of Warcraft is cannibalizing RuneScape's player base. It's not similar enough of a game, but I do think it can learn from RuneScape's successes. And the first place to start, if not the developers, is the influencers that can create the necessary conversations to make that happen. If I am to wish for something, it'd be for all of these talented content creators to—
You heard it. He said World of Warcraft, Blizzard needs to listen to the influencers. So Blizzard, whenever y'all are ready to fly me out, let me know. I don't need first class or anything. And we can have a nice little round table discussion. I do like coffee with 2 creams. But other than that, that's all I require. And I will be ready to fly out and talk to you guys at any point in time. Just let me know.
To lay the foundation needed for Classic Plus, not for it to exist, but for it to thrive. So, why are WoW players quitting old school RuneScape? Well, I'm not sure if they are, because they're taking just a little bit of RuneScape back with them.
Bars. This is the best damn video I've seen in a long ass time. Chat, W3Wise. W, if you enjoyed that video in the conversation today. I think he absolutely nailed it. And he interviewed a lot of different creators here about the situation of WoW versus OSRS, and theory-wise is a WoW and OSRS player. He absolutely nailed it and collected the data and spent the time and articulated everything and really, really thought about what he was saying. And I thoroughly enjoyed this video. Like, this is the most interesting topic right now, is how can we make Classic Plus more like OSRS? And there's not a lot of areas and things that work. There's not a lot of crossover, but there are some things that you can do. And it was cool hearing a lot of other people's perspective. And I like the way Zaryu usually has, how do I say it? Like, Zaryu is not an extremist. He's about in the middle as it gets when he says his takes. And he's very quickly, he's very usually like with the majority of people when he gives his thoughts. And so when he says things, it's usually with critical mass in mind, where he's trying to incorporate the most amount of people and what would work for the majority. And so for me, I'm kind of selfish with my takes. I say what I like and what I want, where Zar's kind of like, he wants what the most people would probably want. You know what I mean? It's like a selfless taker, or giving his take. Yeah. He's a man of the people. Yeah. He's got the dad wisdom. Yeah. The dad wisdom is crazy. All right.